Welcome to the UFC Atlanta prop drop, where I quickly go over or briefly go over every single matchup on this upcoming UFC card and highlighting the props that I like for the fighters that I'm picking to win, as well as some possible hedge opportunities on the flip side in case the other fighter ends up getting their hand raised instead. So without further ado, let's get right into it. First matchup up, we got Jamie Lynn Horth going up against Vanessa Demopoulos. Demopoulos taking this fight up a weight class and on short notice, and I do not believe that is a great idea for her, especially with the physicality that Horth brings to the table. I think we'll see Horth outstrike Demopoulos. I think we'll see her pin her up against the cage, utilize her physicality to wear Demopoulos down, and I think we'll see Horth win a convincing decision, which is kind of at a chalky minus 190 line. Horth was a finisher before she came to the UFC, and she might be able to tap into that here against Demopoulos, considering the size advantage that she has, and you can actually get Jamie Lynn Horth by knockout at plus 850. It's possible she can land those big shots to crumple Demopoulos. She has the physicality and power to do so, and she has the size advantage to come through on that as well. On the flip side for Demopoulos, she might be able to snatch up a submission given her BJJ black belt, but again, that's at plus 1,300, and I think that accurately represents the chances of her snatching that up. And then Demopoulos by decision, that's always worth a little bit of a consideration, considering how many fights she's kind of just eked out, even fights that she didn't deserve to win. You can get her to win by decision at plus 750. Next up, we got Loosa going up against Phil Rowe. I'm expecting the physicality of Loosa to reign supreme here, as I think he can crash the pocket with big power punches, which if he does land the knockout, you can get that at plus 700. But I think it's going to be his grappling and ability to control Rowe up against the cage and on the mat and allow Loosa to go out there and grind this fight out, similar to what he did against Reese McGee a few fights back. And you can get that prop at plus 125. On the flip side, I think if Rowe wins, he's either going to need to catch Loosa with a big shot down the pipe as Losa's looking to close the distance, or even throw up a submission as Loosa tries to continue to control him from that top position. So even just Rowe inside the distance plus 320, that might be your best hedge in this matchup, but I think it's going to be all Loosa controlling this fight with his physicality. All right, next up, we got Ricky Simone going up against Cameron Smotherman. Short notice spot for Smotherman, trying to bounce back after that early May loss that he had to Surrey City. I'm expecting Simone to be too good of a grappler for him. I'm expecting Simone to snatch up a submission here. On the flip side, for Smotherman, if he wins, it probably comes by KO if Simone gets a little bit too lackadaisical in the striking realm. With that said, there are no props as of yet for this fight. This got put together, I believe, on Monday or Tuesday of fight week. We just got the money line just yesterday, so they're still working on the props. That might drop on Friday. If you can get Simone by submission at anything better than plus 500, I think it's worth a little bit of a nibble there. And then on the flip side for Smotherman, if you get him by knockout at anything better than plus 15, plus 1,700 or something like that, maybe that's worth a little bit of a head spot as well if you find yourself parlaying the Ricky Simone side. All right, next up, in what should be a very fun fight here between Jose Ochoa and Cody Durden, I'm expecting Ochoa to really break out here, and I've long seen him as a dark horse prospect who unfortunately had to go up against another high-level prospect in his UFC debut against Lonnie Kavanaugh. I'm expecting Ochoa to really dictate the pace of this matchup against Durden. Durden will be looking to utilize a reckless striking style and also looking to get to his wrestling, but I think Ochoa can match him with that aggressiveness, being the better striker, throwing with a little bit more heat, but also the ability to throw up a lot of submissions, threaten Durden off of his back, or even threaten Durden with some guillotines if Durden shoots a bad takedown attempt as well. So I'm expecting Ochoa to actually either get the club and sub or just straight up submission here, which you can currently get at plus 480. If he ends up crumpling Durden before even getting to a submission, him to win by knockout is plus 330. And then on the flip side for Durden, he might be able to land a big shot to potentially put Ochoa away, but I think Ochoa is durable enough and can roll with the shots well enough that if Durden wins this fight, it probably comes on the scorecards, which you can get at plus 360. All right, next up, we got Malcolm Wellmaker showing out in front of his home state crowd here in Georgia, going up against the returning Chris Moutinho. Now, Moutinho was brought in a similar situation in his first UFC fight where he went up against Sugar Sean O'Malley back in 2021, I believe it was. He got lit up and eventually finished in the final round of that matchup. He ended up getting knocked out by Guido Canetti in his next fight. Then he got cut from the UFC. Now he's on a 5-fight winning streak, returning to the UFC just so Malcolm Wellmaker could actually fight in front of his home state crowd. And I think that Wellmaker eventually comes through with that knockout once again, which you can currently get at minus 230. That is just way too chalky for my liking, especially seeing some of the durability that we've seen from Moutinho in the past. If Wellmaker goes out there and just lights up Moutinho from distance, he might be able to win this fight on the scorecards as well, which currently sits at plus 550. On the flip side for Moutinho, I believe his best way to win this fight is by knockout, which currently sits at plus 2,300. Now, don't get me wrong. Wellmaker is the superior striker, but there are some striking defense issues in Wellmaker's game that Moutinho might be able to exploit here. I don't think it will come to fruition, but if you're looking for a prop to hedge on Moutinho because you find yourself overexposed on the Wellmaker side, which I don't really understand considering he was minus 1,500 this entire weekend, you should not be parlaying that number anyway. But Moutinho by knockout plus 2,300 would probably be the way to go if you want to look for that hedge. All right, next up. Veterans going at it here as we have Michael Chiesa going up against Court McGee. I'm expecting this to be a grueling, grinding matchup, likely taking place in the clinch and in the grappling realm, but I'm expecting Chiesa to eventually get the better of those positions, and I could see multiple times where he ends up on the back of Court McGee and he just grinds that position out, threatening with some submissions, but eventually winning this fight on the scorecards. I think no matter who ends up winning, this fight ends up going to a decision, which you can currently get at minus 140. If it's Chiesa, who's the fighter that I'm choosing to win, him to win by decision is plus 125. McGee to win by decision is currently plus 500. All right, next up, we got Adolfo Bellato going up against Paul Craig. A chaotic matchup, in my opinion, but I ultimately think it's going to be Bellato who successfully keeps this fight in the striking realm and eventually finds that big shot to put Craig away. I think Bellato will find that knockout. You can currently get that at minus 125, a line that I just don't feel is all that enticing to shoot on, even if I expect it to end up hitting. I like that plus money on some of these specific props, and we're not getting that here. And considering how chaotic and wild Bellato's fights could end up being, it may not end up being worth it. On the flip side for Paul Craig, we know he just needs one bite and he could eventually lock up a submission, and you can get that prop at plus 700. All right, next up, another going up a division to the light heavyweight division. We got Umar C going up against Alonzo Menifield. I'm expecting this to be a grueling matchup, similar to the Chiesa and McGee fight, but I think a lot of it is going to look like C pushing Menifield up against the cage, looking for a few takedowns, breaking back out into space, mixing in some combinations, and then getting back to that rinse and repeat style of clinching and seeking takedowns. For the fight to go to decision, currently sits at plus 190. Intriguing number there, especially with the defensive we've seen from Menifield in past fights against guys that normally look to take him to the ground. And then for C to win by decision, you can currently get that at plus 250. On the flip side for Menifield, he could outdamage C on his way to win by decision, but I think the best way to take his hedge opportunity here would be for him to win by knockout, which currently sits at plus 1200. All right, next up, we got Mansour Abdul-Malik going up against Cody Brundage. I don't expect this fight to escape the first round. I think we end up seeing the under 1.5 hit here with relative ease. That's currently sitting at minus 185. I think it's going to be Abdul-Malik who gets that round one knockout, which you can currently get at plus 115. And then on the flip side, you're getting a damn good number on Brundage to turn the tables here on Abdul-Malik and land a big shot of his own. You can get Brundage by knockout round one at plus 2,300. Definitely worth a consideration if you find yourself overexposed on the Abdul-Malik side. All right, next up, we got a solid bantamweight matchup here between Cody Garbrandt and Raoni Barcelos. A lot of people big on Barcelos, and the number continues to widen as fight week goes on, but I have to slightly disagree. I think Garbrandt has good enough takedown defense and an ability to keep this fight upright where he can utilize his speed to touch out Barcelos, who's clearly starting to slow down at this stage of his career. Now, a lot of people might call BS on that, considering he pulled off a major upset last time around against Peyton Talbot, But Talbot, no takedown defense really, and was unable to get up from under Barcelos to really take advantage of the striking advantage he had that night. But I think we'll see good enough defensive grappling from Garbrandt so that he can keep this fight upright and really touch up Barcelos on the feet. I think this ends up hitting the scorecards. I think we see Garbrandt win by decision, which you can currently get at plus 470. If Garbrandt does end up landing that big shot, and we've seen Barcelos' durability be a bit of an issue at times, you can get Garbrandt to win by knockout at plus 380. And then on the flip side, if Barcelos wins, maybe it's him grinding this fight out, taking Garbrandt to the ground or keeping him in these bad positions and winning this fight on the scorecards, which you can currently get at plus 185. All right, next up, we got Edmund Shahbazyan going up against Andre Petroski in a fight that is clearly a striker versus grappler matchup. Now, I got a lot of props that I really like in this fight, so it's going to be interesting to kind of hone in on a specific one that you would actually want to shoot on here. But if Shahbazyan wins, it more than likely comes with him knocking out Petroski in the first round here, and you can get round 1 KO for Shahbazyan at plus 340. But I'm actually leaning with the underdog grappler here in Petroski, as I think he can really wear down Shahbazyan. He can utilize his big power punching to close the distance, get a hold of Shahbazyan, wear him down in the clinch, eventually take him to the ground, and I think he has plenty of finishing opportunities in the second and third rounds. My official prediction was end up being Petroski to win by decision, which you can currently get at plus 390. But here are some of the spots in terms of Petroski's finishing props. Now, Petroski round 2 plus 1200. Petroski round 3 plus 1700. Petroski round 2 sub plus 2,000, Petroski round 3 sub plus 2,800, and then Petroski round 3 KO plus 3,900. The reason I highlight that last one is because we have seen instances where Petroski has worn an opponent down, and then I think it was the Michael Gilmore fight where he kind of just gift wrapped him and then landed a lot of big shots to eventually force the stoppage there. So it's possible that we see Petroski just land some ground and pound and get a tired Shahbazyan out of there. But I think it's ultimately going to be that either decision or round 3 submission that ends up hitting here. All right. Co-main event now where we got Rowe's Namajunas taking on Miranda Maverick. Both these women are very familiar with each other, so I'd kind of be surprised if we see a finish here, right? I think both women will know what to anticipate from one another and might have the recipe to try to solve the problems that they present as well. I think it's going to be Namajunas who ends up chipping away at Maverick on the feet, outlanding her, landing the more significant strikes, landing the better shots, and I think she ends up winning this fight on the scorecards, which you can currently get at minus 150. Also, if Namajunas is able to keep this fight standing long enough, there is an opportunity that she could land a big shot to put Miranda Maverick away here, maybe with a well-timed head kick as we've seen her do in the past, and you can get Namajunas to win by knockout at plus 950. On the flip side, if Maverick is able to get to her grueling physicality and actually just push Namajunas up against the cage, outmuscle her, put her back against the cage, or even drag her to the ground, there is a case that she could win at least 2 of these 3 rounds utilizing that style, and you can get Maverick to win by decision at plus 280. Something to consider there. All right. Welterweight main event now where we got Kamaru Usman taking on Joaquin Buckley. Again, it hurts me to predict against Kamaru Usman, but I really think he's going to start showing signs of slowing down at 38 years old, all the injuries that he's had to face, not to mention the inactivity as of late as well. I think Buckley shucks off the takedowns, starts walking Usman down and then finding those big shots to eventually put him away. You can get Buckley by KO at plus 150. Not a line I really want to, take a risk on, knowing that Usman, he might be capable of having some success still. You can get Usman to win by decision at plus 550. And if Usman does look like Usman of old, he might be the one with the better cardio here, where he ends up pushing a pace that Buckley's not able to keep up with. And then we see Usman start running away with this in deep water. You can get Usman round 4 KO plus 3,100, Usman round 5 KO plus 3,500. But again, that's kind of just out there thinking as of right now. I just wanted to at least mention it to give you guys that opportunity to shoot on it if you like my, or at least like the thought of it. But I think it's going to be Buckley that stops the takedowns, starts walking Usman down, and eventually gets him out of there in the second, probably the third or fourth round, actually. All right. let's get to our top 3 prop bets and long shots. It's not been that great. I'm going to be honest. I'm trying to hit some of these spots, but it doesn't really end up coming through. Choinski by decision falls flat on its face. Spivak by sub falls flat on its face. Harrison decides to go for the submission, so we have to rip up our KO prop on her at plus 310. Ashmus, I was surprised. My long shot was Ashmus by decision plus 1,000. I was kind of surprised at the amount of grappling that Salkild was willing to do and actually be successful in a lot of those spots. And then Ashmus was starting to walk him down in the third round and even, hurt him a few times, but we're unable to get over the line there. So we're going to try again this weekend. I got 3 juicy props for you guys, as well as a very juicy long shot that I'm hoping we can end up crossing off here and actually getting the dub. So let's get right to it. First one up, Jose Ochoa by submission plus 480. Umar C by decision plus 250. And Mansoor Abdul-Malik round 1 knockout plus 115. The long shot, we're going to go Andre Petroski round 3 submission plus 2,800. Again, I hope he can avoid the early finishing danger from Shahbazyan, start wearing him down in the clinch, eventually get him to the ground, and eventually find that submission. I'm hoping it can at least get to the third round. Round 2 sub is obviously on the table as well at plus 2,000, but for the sake of record keeping and this segment, I'm going to put Petroski round 3 sub at plus 2,800 as my long shot for UFC Atlanta. All right, that is a wrap on the UFC content for the week. Reminder, PFL went down yesterday, so you guys already missed out on the breakdown that I did there, but I did have an LFA breakdown for the fights going down tonight, so make sure you guys check out the Legacy Warriors podcast from yesterday to prepare for that. I'll have track plays for that card, as well as Octagon and KSW, which go down on Saturday afternoon. I'll have breakdowns for those in written form and track plays on the MMA LOTN Patreon page, the Lock of the Night Patreon page. Check the link in the description below. Otherwise, good luck on your action this weekend, folks, and I'll see you guys again Sunday for the UFC, UFC Vegas? Is that what we got next week? Or sorry, I think it's going to be UFC Baku. I could be wrong. Yeah, UFC Baku, the Azerbaijan card. I believe it's Khalil Roundtree against Jamal Hill in the main event. So hopefully I can get that breakdown out for you guys on Sunday. See you guys then. Peace.